Welcome, one and all, as we continue our journey once again. Last we left off, our intrepid crew of air sailors flying soon to likely be pirates of the skies. Our intrepid crew of adventurers had found themselves in a situation where they needed a particular part for their airship in order to no longer have to expend every ounce of magical energy they had to keep things stable. They sought out a renowned blacksmith to work a special lunar steel metal that could only be forged under the light of the moons of the world, and successfully managed to collect the piece of the engine that they needed. Harness in place, they sought to repay the kindness of this blacksmith and ventured back into the city to help them with a situation they were dealing with and having to collect a large number of supplies for the rebellion, an organization set to deal with some of the more wrong choices that the Society of the Imperium has in existing as it does. And shortly after their arrival at the caravan, nothing seemed amiss until all at once everything went awry and a vicious explosion tore through the caravansary. A deafening roar sending shockwaves through the air with a plume of thick black smoke lifting skyward. Split second later, shouts, screams filling the air, groans of wounded, crunch of wood, flying debris, all of this going everywhere around. This once bustling square of seemingly mundane activity instantly transformed into a chaotic mess. The market stalls, the crates, everything sent askew, charred fragments of the wagons, a horse going by, its mane on fire. Everything around you, chaos, crackling flames beginning to catch alight and roar. To the left of you spot workers huddled together, some clutching bloody limbs, others frozen in shock. A few people run by, heading towards the gates, using their arms to shield their faces from the smoke. Others seemingly going to assist with those that are injured. You hear calls for healers amidst all of the confusion. On the far right side of the caravanserai, you notice figures crouched low, edging towards an exit, trying to find any route to get themselves out of this chaos. And then closer to the heart of the explosion, you can make out several injured by the blast. Few folk lying motionless amongst the debris. You're not sure if they're dead, unconscious, or otherwise, but you can see that there are some that are trying, struggling with all of their might to stand, their faces pale with shock and pain, a few looking around disoriented, their eyes unable to focus. This acrid scent of smoke and burning wood hangs thick in the air. It stings your eyes, it burns your lungs. The sounds of the flame almost seem to be competing with the cries for help. A few folks shouting instructions that seem to have their wits about them, but it's too much chaos. It's hard to tell who is friend, who is foe in all of this. Everything is a blur of movement, firelight shadows, people running in all directions. You can still see that a good portion of the caravan that you had been assisting in loading is relatively unharmed, intact in many ways, yet the center of it, where that those few 3 or 4 wagons had been full, you now just see a smoking crater. Somewhere in the crowd, you spot Nora's familiar figure moving through the wreckage, seemingly helping an individual who is injured. And at this point, I need for all of you to please roll initiative. While you do that, hi everyone, thank you for joining us. It looks like, Kay, you got a hail from Ysterra Knight tonight. Please feel free to use that. I saw a dirty 20 or natural 20 in there from someone. We'll find out who that one is in just a moment. Hey, darling Creepshow, welcome in. Okay. Sisk, what is your initiative, please?
I got a 7. And I was thinking about using Raven's advantage. I hope.
Well, you need to decide now because I have not typed it in yet. I'm about to type it in.
How can I do it?
Okay.
That's way better. 17.
17 is significantly better than the 7. I'm guessing, Ian, you didn't do too well. Can you tell us what Bren got?
Did we all get advantage, or was it just
nope,
Kay?
It was. Well,
we did because we just
did just now. Varl, throwing in the bits, coming in hot, running a little late, but that's okay, Varl, because you came in hot.
I refuse to take that natural 1.
Oh man, DD Dice just absolutely is amazing.
What the hell? It rolled twice.
Well, the first one was a 2.
Well, screw it. I guess we get another natural 1.
You have a negative 1 initiative modifier?
No. I got a 2. Or so I got a 3.
A 3.
I have a plus
Great.
1. Yeah.
Great. I mean, okay. That's fine. Ish. It's disorienting. Like this is a chaotic scene. It's hard to get your bearings. Like it's fine. It makes sense. Violet?
I hate it.
What'd Violet get?
I got 24 total.
Nice. That natural 20 was you, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That also makes sense because I feel like in this particular situation, Violet would probably have had her head on a swivel and have a good sense of things. What'd you get, 80?
11.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I also got 11.
Does one of you have a higher dexterity than the other?
We both have plus 2.
In this case,
I'm going to say.
In this case, I'm going to say it's not going to be dexterity. I'm going to say it's going to be wisdom. Who has the higher wisdom score?
16.
Mine is 12. So,
ooh, suck it.
In proper order here. Okay. Andrew. Violet has her wits about her before anyone else can really react. You all are standing in different parts of this location. This is just to kind of describe it a little bit further and what your bounds are. You can think of this caravanserai as like almost like it's laid out like the inside of a fort almost. There are 4 walls, but there is a giant archway door between the 4 walls. And so the square layout is about like 200 feet wide. So it's 200 feet on each side. And the wagons were being loaded in almost like a semicircle, like U-shaped orientation. And so the center of them that did exist on the southern side of the area is what took the explosion. You guys were all kind of spread out between the 2 northernmost points, so you can decide where you want to be in that particular case. We're not really in a combat scenario with like movement. We're going to be a little bit more fluid with movement and such here, but you were at least 50 or 60 feet away from the explosion when it happened. So you can kind of decide, you tell me where Violet is at and what she is doing in this situation.
Yeah, I think Violet kind of whips her head around to see the source of the explosion, and then if she sees Nora trying to help someone, I think she'll dash towards Nora to help her.
Okay. As you come running over to Nora, she I'm assuming by help you mean you're going into the other side and like helping lift the person up. So like you grab the other person's arm, put it on your shoulder and help lift. And as soon as Nora sees you do that, she looks at you and you can tell that she has an expression of shock and surprise on her face for sure. But there's also this kind of resolve about her. She's despite the fact that her heart is, racing 200 beats a minute, she's trying to keep her wits about her. And the first thing that she says to you is, "Do you see Dove? Can you go find Dove? I got him. Yeah, please, just go find Dove."
Yeah, where's Taryn? Is Taryn okay?
Taryn's back at the house. He's not with us.
Then she'll just run off trying to find Dove.
Go ahead and give me I think it's going to be perception more than investigation in this case, because there's too much chaos for it to be proper investigation. So we'll just call it a perception check.
15.
15. That is good enough. You see the figure that you think is Dove near the center towards the explosion, laying on the ground unmoving. It's hard to know if that's truly Dove or just another dwarf, because there's people running by, there's smoke, there's like the chaos of it tells you can't be certain that is Dove, but you think you see Dove closer to the explosion than you would absolutely want them to be. And we will be back to you in a moment. Sisk.
I'm gonna yell to the others to move in groups. Do not split up, and I'm gonna beeline after Violet. I guess see her talking to Nora and stuff.
Okay. As you start heading towards Violet, you see Violet kind of peel off from Nora and start looking in towards the southerly direction, obviously looking for someone or something. And I'll say that you two can have a moment here if you want.
Dove, we're looking for Dove. Did you see where he went? Did you see where he was?
No. I don't think that we should really be split up. So I'll be your backup. We're looking for Dove.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Start running.
Okay. So you guys are heading off in the direction that you think Dove is. Are you going to do anything else of particular note? Using any abilities or anything, Sisk?
I will bardically inspire Violet while we're here.
Okay.
And can I guidance myself?
You can't do both. Okay. Oh wait, yes you can, because Bardic Inspiration's a bonus action. You absolutely can do both. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll do that then.
Wonderful. 80.
So she will be hit with, I assume, a wave of very intense emotion from everybody around her.
Oh, that's actually a good point. Go ahead and make a wisdom saving throw.
Cool.
I had not considered that until you brought it up.
15?
I'll say you're keeping it at bay for the moment, but if anything else stressful causes this crowd to go crazy, you don't know if you can hold it off. You can feel the crushing waves of emotion just tearing at your psyche, and you don't know how well you're holding up at the moment.
Yeah,
I'll put it this way: you don't know how you're holding up at the moment. Somehow you're still standing and haven't crumpled to nothing, and you don't know why.
Among all of that, do I feel any emotions that are like someone who is feeling calm or smug or anything like that could
give me
anywhere?
We're going to call this an emotional perception check. So it's going to be perception using your charisma. And I feel like normally you would get advantage on this because of your gift, but I feel like your gift is working against you in this case. So I actually want you to roll with full disadvantage here.
Whew, that's rude.
Ooh.
Nope, I feel nothing. I see nothing.
You do have an advantage if you wanted to use it.
Okay.
Do
Thanks,
you want
Varl.
to talk to the scary lady again?
Varl.
Thanks, Varl.
Varl, you angelic human. So that's a 25. What are the vibes?
Everything is chaos. There is no one around you that is not affected by this in some way. And then at the edges of your perceptive abilities, you feel excitement. You feel glee isn't the right word, but it's that kind of class of emotion.
Okay.
Coming from the opposite side of where the explosion happened. From the outer reaches of your perceptive abilities, just beyond the edges of this caravanserai.
Okay.
There's other people that are feeling this. And it's not just one person.
I'll look to Mira and Bren and just say, I think whoever did this is over that way, and I'll point in the direction.
She literally points in the direction of the explosion.
Perfect. Do we chase? What do we do?
We don't know who we're going to be chasing.
Ian, because you actually rolled so low in initiative, I need for you to make a wisdom saving throw, please. And I'm also, because Beth already established this, I'm going to say that Mira, 80, and Bren were all in close proximity to each other when this happened. But you two are at least a little bit separated from Violet and Sisk.
17.
Why do you keep rolling 2 dice?
I have advantage on wisdom saving throws.
Oh, right. Because of your gift. Yes, I remember that now. I'm sorry, what did you get total?
17.
Okay. Ren is keeping his cool in this situation, but just so you know, there's a stress to this that I don't know how familiar you are with PTSD style flashbacks, but that's kind of, you don't know why you're feeling it. Bren wouldn't understand it, even if he did know why in this moment. But that's what he's feeling, and he's barely keeping that at bay. You're fine. You're not suffering any penalties. You're not in any cognitive thing. I'm just giving you that as an informative for your roleplay.
I think if everyone just took like a quick second, they would see this million-mile stare on Bren that could be taken as focus or dissociation. It's kind of questionable in which. But he is looking in the direction of the explosion after 80 brought light to it. I assume people are... Go ahead.
Yep, people are running all over the place, and I will also tell you that it isn't the fire and the explosion so much as the pillar of black smoke that is triggering Bren right now.
Okay. So we hit fight or flight. Do we run into it?
I don't know. Normally I just do it anyways, but I figured we maybe shouldn't split up or something.
80, do we run into it?
She'll just look at Mira, because her impulse is always, yes, go towards the bad thing.
I think in this moment, not to take it away from anybody here, and I apologize if I interrupted you, Deb. I think that is enough for Bren to make up, like you're making his mind up for him. So, wild shape.
You're not. It's not your turn yet. You're not.
Oh, I thought this was just an emotional initiative.
Nope. Not your turn yet. Are you doing anything? I was allowing the communication roleplay aspect of it, but no actions just yet for you, Ian. Are you doing anything specific for 80?
No, I think she's on the cusp of total overwhelm and is just looking for someone to point her at what she should do.
Okay. Mira?
Does it look like there's anyone like trapped under any debris? Or...
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
This place had probably 200 individuals.
Okay.
And you all know, because of what Dove had explained to you and what you know from Nora, probably 5 of them were actually directly associated to the rebellion. Everyone else were just workers hired to do the job of loading a caravan, right? Or managing horses or delivering wagons. So you know that the vast majority of people here that are injured are going to be innocent bystanders.
Seeing the glance from 80, Mir would like to run forward and I would like to use my wizard soul ability and use minor alchemy to start transforming some of the heavier materials into something lighter so that it's easier to get out of the way and to start getting people untrapped.
Brilliant. Go ahead and roll for me an Arcana check. I don't remember this ability, so I don't know if you have to do any kind of spellcaster ability check or anything, so I'm just going to pull it as an Arcana check here on the fly.
That's a 27.
Brilliant. You don't have to go far. 12 feet away from you, there's a person trapped underneath a portion of an entire wagon wheel that got ripped off of a wagon, has basically pinned them to the ground. And I don't know if you know anything about wagon wheels, but they're heavy. And so you come rushing over to it and you focus your magic in such a way. Tell me what it looks like and what you transform this wagon wheel into as Mira basically just lifts it off of this trapped person.
Yeah, it's like, her magic really all looks very similar because it's all coming from Orlumis. And so she sort of starts to glow a little bit and she just grabs hold of this really heavy wagon wheel. And it doesn't really look any different, but the wood, the type of wood changes into something that's incredibly light, sort of like an MDF material. And
well, MDF can actually be heavy. I'll help you out here, and I'll say that you basically transform it into driftwood.
Sure, great.
Because driftwood is actually quite light, and
so
all of a sudden the wagon wheel itself doesn't look dramatically different, but anybody that is familiar with wood and paying attention, not that anyone is, would notice that like all of the water just evaporates from it and it ages dramatically. In fractions of a second, it ages 100 years. And that allows Mira to basically just toss it aside off of this person. And as you go to help this person up, they don't know what just happened, but they do see the aura of your magic kind of diminishing as you finish the magical action. And like they're too disoriented to say really anything coherent, but you get a feeling of thanks from them that they can't articulate, basically. As you help them up and kind of point them in a direction of a nearby archway, and they just start like going. They're not walking straight by any sense of the imagination, but like they're heading in that direction as best they can. And so then, Ren, before you can start wild shaping and turning into whatever it is that you're going to turn into, 2 more explosions go off. These are much smaller though, and they don't have the force of impact that this first one had. They're more like flashbangs.
I was about to say, are they like decoy?
You all are actually, I'm going to say Sisk and Violet are close enough because you all had been moving before the others towards the middle. So I need both Sisk and Violet to make Constitution saving throws, please.
Jeez. I'm gonna close my eyes.
You're going to have to open your eyes at some point, Kate.
Oh yeah, I have guidance. That's very...
Guidance won't help you on a saving throw.
Oh. Well, I have 13.
Okay.
I got 19.
All right.
the
19
bardic.
succeeds. 13 does not. You will be disoriented on your next turn. If you do, you can't take multiple actions on your turn, meaning you can only do a bonus action or an action or a movement on your turn. And any action that you take that requires an attack roll will be at disadvantage. Just from the disorientation. As these smaller explosions go off, it's more like a burst of light and concussive force rather than actual fire and, force behind it. Violet, unfortunately, Sisk kind of absorbed the shockwave and slumps into you a bit, and you can tell very clearly that the explosion kind of rocks them a bit. They're on their feet for now. Brent.
You know what? Screw it. Yeah. It's gonna wild shape into a warhorse and kind of pony up, next to 80. Kind of gesturing, come on, let's go. Sick.
Since you didn't really do anything on your turn, Beth, I will allow 80 to go ahead and mount.
Hop on pop?
Yeah, hop on pop.
Excellent. That is what I will do.
And actually, here's what we're going to do. Because it's happening in close timing with the little explosions, I'm going to make you do a dexterity check. We'll call it acrobatics or athletics. Well, actually, yeah, it wouldn't have to be dexterity. It could be either acrobatics or athletics, your choice. Your
I
DC,
provide the help
your
action
DC
by
is
putting
10.
my butt on the ground. Oh, never mind. You got this.
Oof, that is a hot 11. Thanks, Varl, for the hail. I'll save that for later.
11
Nailed
is
it.
good enough. It ain't pretty, and there's no saddle. Maybe that's what throws 80 off. Who knows? But 80 does hop on pop, so to speak. And are you heading towards the direction of the main explosion that happened?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're not taking any other actions there.
No, I'm just focusing on. So, you said it was 60 feet?
Yeah, well, you guys were probably a little bit further than that. You guys were probably 80 feet away from the actual explosion.
I think.
Meaning the 3 of you that had been kind of separated from the other 2.
Okay, yeah. My full movement will get us 20 feet away. I'll do that.
Andrew, why are you?
Animorphs.
Andrew's posting GIFs in Discord's disturbingly. I gotta get away from that. Anyway, I should just mute all of this shit. So yes, as you start moving in closer, the smoke gets thicker, and if it wasn't for you actually being in wild shape and having the focus that you have, you feel like that you would have a more difficult time dealing with this situation, friend. Before we come back to the top of the round, oh my god, you guys, please. Now I really have to mute the channel. Yes, Galahad, I agree. Galahad protests as well, just so you know. As this chaos is unfolding around everyone, more organized movement starts happening from the southern entryway of the caravanserai and moving around the explosion, getting very close to it and moving through the space. You see probably a dozen, maybe maybe as much as 20 individuals cloaked in blue, wearing armor, with holy symbols around their necks, surging into the space. All of you would recognize them clearly as members of the clergy, but they don't have that same appearance as what you had dealt with previously when you were dealing with Chokran and the others. This is different, and they're organized, and they are immediately moving in, not to help, but you see a number of them grabbing individuals that cannot flee and yelling at them that they are under arrest for criminal association. And it immediately brings all of you moving forward to a stop. And then, coming around from the edges of the black smoke, Violet spots him first, although she doesn't recognize him at all. You see, through all of the smoke and confusion, the deep, deep blue robes of a man high within the clergy, laced with silver and edging that is unlike any craftsmanship you've seen before. Tall, lean figure, robes flowing, striding with an almost unnatural grace. His features and piercing gaze locking anyone that sees him. There's a light in his eyes and arcana that few would be able to recognize. And Sisk, as disoriented as you are right now, you still spot Kelanu. You see him standing there, and whatever sense that you had before that moment becomes nothing but flight. Fear grips you. There is no saving throw for this. You are frightened. And you find yourself staring at your past, staring at your nightmare. There's a moment where Helenun's gaze drifts across, moves past you, and then stops, and then moves back to you. You're kind of leaning back up against Violet. Violet, you can feel Sisk tense. You can feel them shaking in fear in just the fraction of a second that all of this happens. Sisk, you see Kelenun's eyes affix yours, and they see right through you. His eyes are twinkling with that arcane light that you know all too well. And you hear, even though his mouth barely moves and he does not scream, he doesn't have to amidst this. You hear, and Violet, you hear this too because it happens basically in the area of you. His voice, cold, cutting through the chaos, softly and laced with a vileness that sends chills up both of your spines. Oh my. I had hoped I'd find you again. Dear Sisk, I told you that you cannot hide from me. Violet, it is your turn.
Violet will step in front of Sisk and Kalanun and sprout her wings, pull out a dagger, and tell Sisk to run. Run. Just catch up with the others. Go. And she'll wait. Just try to be in between him and Sisk.
Okay. As you step in front, Kellinan doesn't really see you. He seems to be looking through you, still staring and focused on Sisk. And he raises a hand and just points a finger in your general direction. And I need for Sisk to please make a wisdom saving throw. Actually, no. Sorry. Intelligence saving throw. One of these days I'll look at the right thing. Intelligence saving throw at disadvantage.
12.
Unfortunately, your DC was 24.
Okay.
Sisk, your vision blurs. The rest of you can see Kellinun's eyes burn brighter with this arcane power. You feel, Sisk, Kellinun's grip on your mind tighten. It is a familiar sensation that you had hoped you would never feel again in your lifetime. Threads of magic begin to weave through your mind, tearing at your memories without restraint. You can feel Kellinun rifling through your escape, your journey for those years, the brief respite that you had at Bren's, fleeing the Inquisitors that had been chasing. Eventually, your meeting with the others that you have come to call friend. Your various encounters since then with the Nostromo, images of 80 obliterating Chokran. That whole scene on top of the mountain, the discovery of the airship, your repairing of Tig, the work that you had done to understand and become the engineer that you now feel that you are. Every secret, every hidden detail, all laid bare under this magical probing in your mind. The rest of you see Sisk slump, shoulders, head down, still standing, but barely, unmoving. You're not sure if they're in any pain or suffering any helplessness, but you all see their form shift. Their guise drops, and you see the real Sisk standing there. You are incapacitated, Sisk. It is the end of your turn, because your turn was next. You don't get to take any actions because you're incapacitated, but at the end of your turn, you do get to attempt another intelligence saving throw.
Continued at disadvantage? Probably.
Unless someone does something to change that, yes.
Okay. 9. I'll just tell you when it's 24, maybe.
You have an advantage right now, right, from Varl?
Oh, yeah, I do.
So you could just roll that and take whatever that result is.
Oh, I did roll already. Do you want?
Just roll a single
Just
die.
one?
Yeah, and you
Okay, I'll
you
give
get
it a
to take
shot.
whatever that is.
It's a 9. So.
Varl obviously.
Thank you, Varl. I'm very, very sorry.
Thank you, Varl. So yes, you are still incapacitated. That brings us to 80. 80, you are sitting atop the horse. I will say that you all had kind of moved a little bit past where Sisk and Violet were. As you were looking around for the source of your emotions that you had been feeling, you now know the source of those emotions. The myriad of clerical individuals that seem to be dealing with people. You're not feeling anything from Kellenunda. And if it wasn't for the fact that you see him with your eyes, you would not know he exists.
Sus. All right, so as we are galloping over, I will, while holding the luscious mane of Bren Horse, keep my grip tight, and I will briefly close my eyes and think about the ring that I'm wearing and try to call out to my trapped friend, just sort of like, I guess, like funneling all of my emotion and concern and thoughts about what's happening into the ring.
Okay. You can't see Eliana, but you do hear her voice as she tells you, "No, run, get away as fast as you can. Not him, not him, not him, not him, not him, not him." And then she starts to retreat. You can will her to stay if you want, but she starts to retreat.
No, I won't do that to her. Well, I feel a little worse about the situation we're in. But I'll hold on and continue riding with Bren. I'm not going to attack or anything because it feels very stupid. I like to do small stupid things and medium stupid things, but this is pretty bad. So I think I'll just wait and see, like, when we wherever Bren's going, whatever he's doing, I will I'm stuck. So yeah.
Do you have
I'll
any
see where we end
beneficial
up.
spells or anything that you want to maybe use?
I thought about yeah, you know what? Sure, why not? Okay. Is there like a concentration of these sons of bitches anywhere?
Not that would not also include innocence. So
Okay.
if your area allows you to target specific people, absolutely. But if it's
Sure.
not discriminatory, you don't want to do it.
Okay, well, I'm going to do it anyways. So I'm going to look at the emotionless Kellanun, and I'm going to cast Slow, hoping that it could do something, even though maybe it probably won't. But it's a 40-foot cube, so I'll just center it on, I guess, wherever I can hit the most of them.
Do you get to pick who in that 40-foot cube is affected by it?
Yep, up to 6 creatures of my choice.
Okay. I will
So
say
I'll
that
only target them.
yes. The 5 clergy folk that you hit with it, I will just say that they fail.
Great.
And Kellanun uses a legendary resistance and
Fine.
is not affected by it.
That's cool. Yeah, I will. I'm
You
happy
do get a
with that.
reaction from Kellanun, though. He just turns his gaze towards you,
Thought he might.
and there's
okay.
a smile that creeps across his face.
Okay. Yeah, that's my turn.
Great. Mira?
How far am I from Sisk?
We'll just say 40 feet.
I
Did you
I wanna
want to be
move-
closer?
yeah, I would
Or
like
were
to
you-
move so that I could get right up and touch them.
Oh,
Because
sure. I'll let that.
I want to
No
cast protection from evil and good on Sisk.
Okay. You do that. What does it look like as you try to wrap Sisk up in this protective matrix?
I sort of reach around them and wrap them in a hug, and we're sort of shielded by Violet's wings, and so it's just another sort of protective body. And Mira starts to glow once again, and Sisk is enfolded in this bright glow.
Let's see. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that's going to... Sorry, what was the spell again?
Protection from evil and good.
So, unfortunately, the frightened and possession stuff only protects if the source of it is aberration, celestial, elemental, fey, fiend, or undead. And Kellanun is not any of those things. But here's what I will say. Roll for me a spellcaster ability check as you invoke your patron.
I'm gonna use my advantage.
A lot better.
22.
22 will be enough. You feel the magic wrap around Sisk. I will give you, Sisk, a straight roll to try to break the enchantment. Not a very good roll, I'm afraid. As this protective ward goes around Sisk, you can feel them as you hold them, and it's like the body is empty. There's no consciousness there. The body is just standing there, as if the only things that are currently functioning inside of Sisk are the things that the brain does not consciously have to do. Would you like to do anything else?
Nope.
Before you can go, Brent, because you are last in initiative. Sorry. You all hear from behind you, Nora's voice ring out firm above the din of the chaos. As your vow! As your vow! And as she yells this, it's projected beyond what a normal person would be able to scream. There is a magical boom to it. Those of you that have an affinity with magic would know that she has evoked some thaumaturgy to boost her voice or some other similar type of thing. And you see a number of individuals around you immediately respond to this cry of Azure Vow, as several individuals, the handful of folk that you knew to be part of the resistance, reach into tunics, pouches. One of them yanks a pendant from their neck, and they throw these objects into the air, and bursting, filling the vast majority of the caravanserai above is plumes of blue smoke. Just immense volumes of blue smoke that begins to add to the confusion. Spreading through the square, you see that a number of the inquisitors that are there begin to like shield their faces and begin to start coughing and such. You all standing kind of in the center area are not really as affected by it, as it seems to be more or less aimed where all of the inquisitors had been pouring in. And as any of you that are able to perceive things right now, sorry Sisk, glance back in the direction of Nora as she is screaming this, you can see her. She is no longer helping that individual that she had been helping before. You don't see them. They've either moved off on their own or been helped by someone else. You see her waving to come back, to come to her, and you hear her not quite, she isn't using the magic that she had been using, and in her normal voice she is trying to scream to you, "Find Dove," and beckoning you to come to her. And it is now your turn, Ian.
Oh, great. If you could just recap real quickly for me. So where 80 and I are,
you're more or less you're more or less towards the southern edge where the explosion had happened. Mm-hmm. You're, maybe 20 feet or so from where the explosion had happened. So meta knowledge, all you need to do is just look around to see if you can find Dove. But
okay, I'd like to do that.
Okay. Give me a perception check, please. You can use your passive if you like.
I will. Oh, that's 15.
Okay. Not too far in front of you, maybe a dozen feet or so, you see a blackened, scorched body covered in soot that looks like Dove. Their arms are splayed out to the side, their head is tilted in one direction, and they're just laying there on the ground.
Got it. I take off in that direction so that
you barely have to move. He's like two, 3 steps, 2 or 3 horse strides in front of you.
Perfect. I'm gonna chomp down on his shirt with my gnaw and start. Just yeah.
Go ahead and give me a strength check. Actually, wait, you're a warhorse, right? What's a warhorse's strength?
18.
18? Yeah, that's more than enough. You reach down, bite down on the collar of where his cloak is around the, basically right here on him. Chomp down on that and start dragging him. As you do, I will say that he coughs in response to that. He's not dead.
How great you're alive. That's going to be my main focus. If I didn't use a lot of my movement, the rest of my movement is going to be going in the direction of
falling back in the direction of Nora.
Yeah.
Perfect. 80.
Yes. Hi.
It is your turn.
Cool.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said 80. I meant Violet. We're back to the top of the round. Violet, it is your turn. Sorry.
Yeah, is Mira next to me now?
Yes.
Or was that just a spell?
Mira is right there with you and Sisk.
And Mira, grab Sisk and run. I'll stay in between. Go.
For what it's worth, you can't actually see Kellenun right now because of the blue smoke.
Oh, okay, then we should all go. So I'll grab Sisk and Mira and run.
You grab Sisk. What's your strength?
Not great. -1.
Go ahead and give me an athletics check, please.
18.
Nice. Filled with adrenaline, Violet is able to hoist Sisk's not incapacitated form upon her shoulder. If Sisk was conscious, Sisk would be in a lot of pain right now as sharp bits from like Violet's armor and such are digging into their abdomen. But that doesn't matter to Sisk at this moment as you immediately start running back towards Nora. Are you going to be doing anything else, or are you just hauling ass?
Yeah, just running. I'd like, I don't know if I'd be able to like grab Mira by the arm and just start pulling too.
Sure. I mean, I'm assuming that Mira's not going to resist, so yeah. Wonderful. Before we can see if Sisk actually manages to shake off this effect, you all begin to hear a crackling and thunderous noise rippling through the cloud of blue smoke that has coalesced around the outer edges of the caravanserai. Go ahead and give me an Arcana check, Mira.
$16.
That's good enough. You believe that Kellenun is summoning a thunderstorm inside of the cloud of azure smoke. A bolt of lightning rips out in a kind of random direction. Okay. I need for Ian and 80, or Bren and 80, I need for the two of you to please make dexterity saving throws.
I do a cartwheel on Bren's back.
And I gracefully plie as a horse.
Gaze upon us.
Right.
You do still, however, both of you take 36 points of thunder damage.
Excuse me?
Rude.
Oof. We need to leave.
That one hurt.
We gotta go.
So does that take you out of horse form? How
Um,
many hit points does a warhorse have?
It does. So,
So at least some of
I'm
that
just
damage was
standing
absorbed
there.
by your horse form. And I will say, well, since you had rolled a natural 20, 80, I will grant that you land on your feet as you are thrown from no longer Horsebren. And I will say, Ian, that because you did roll well enough on your saving throw, that you didn't take the full damage from all of this, that you basically have Dove gripped in your hands, like you have him in your arms and are able to continue dragging him. You didn't like lose him, but I will also say that because of that, he took the brunt of that hit as well. And he is now dying.
Really? Okay. It's not my turn yet, is it?
No, it is not your turn.
Got it.
Sisk, I need for you to make a roll. Your DC is 24. You do roll this straight now. I'm granting you that the magic of Orlumis that is still upon you is negating the disadvantage.
Okay. 17. We're getting closer.
Getting closer. It is in the realm of possibility that something could happen. We'll see. Back to you, 80.
Superb. Okay. I landed on my feet.
Mhm.
Can I see where Mira and Violet and Sisk are?
Yes, like you've moved past them. They're more, well, actually, I'm just gonna say you guys are coming closer together now. The thunderous boom kind of threw you all into the same general area at this point.
Okay. And how far is Kellanun from us at this point?
You don't know. He's somewhere in the cloud of blue that you cannot see. I mean, on the plus side, he can't see you. But
dumb.
For what it
Don't
was
like
worth,
it.
by the way, that thunderous lightning that was summoned was an area, like a 20-foot radius area.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he was targeting specifically you and Bren. He just happened to hit the right area that you two happened to be in.
Yes. Okay, so I am hurting quite a bit from the thunder. So as I I'm on my way to be with the rest of the group. I am thinking about how I'm supposed to protect myself when everything is going to shit. And suddenly, as I am running, you would see. Let's see. You would see. Basically 6 80s running in that direction.
Oh, I gotta know what this magic looks like as 80 panic casts.
Yeah. It's not something she's ever done before, so it feels very weird, but this is her ethereal evasion ability. So I'm able to summon duplicates that equal my charisma fighter +1, which means there are 5 duplicates, and they just sort of pop up one by one, just kind of around me. One's in front, a couple on the side, one behind, and they mimic my motion, so we all kind of look like we're doing the same thing. When they're cast, the illusory 80s and actual 80 start to shimmer a little bit, and then it sort of fades out. So there's no indication of what is what. It's really hard to know.
Brilliant. And is that it for your turn?
Yeah, I just want to keep moving so that I'm with the rest of the group, and obviously as far away from that thunder bullshit as I can be.
Mira.
Do I get the sense that Vi holding Sisk is going to slow us down.
Yes, but Vi also moves at a pretty good clip. Like, it's going to slow you guys down a little bit. But what choice do you have?
And Bren with Dove?
That's going to be more slowing. Dove is not light.
Okay.
Like, I was granting that Sisk is much more lightweight than Dove. Dove's a beefy boy, and Bren might be stronger than Violet, but
I am going to then use my final spell slot to cast Floating Disc and yell at both Violet and Bren to plop Sisk and Dove onto the disc.
Wonderful.
So we can run faster.
Wonderful. Absolutely. That's going to help quite a bit. Anything else?
That does
other than the blanket statement that you guys are all, moving back towards Nora.
Not for me.
Okay. Yeah. So as you guys are all moving back towards Nora, you all can see her standing there. She has a look of stern determination upon her face. She sees the body of Dove, and 80 would know. The rest of you might be able to imply from her facial expression she is certain that Dove is dead. And there's this torn hatred of the world in her eyes, but at the same time she knows that she can't do anything about that at the moment. And you see her reach into a pouch at her side, and she retrieves a very large walnut. And as you guys are running towards her, she turns and hurls this walnut at a tree that is standing nearby. You see it strike the side of this tree and embed itself into the bark of it. And as it does so, the bark begins to shudder and twist, and you see this magical pulse of force kind of splitting apart the tree. And it looks very violent as it's doing this, as basically the tree is tearing a hole in itself. And you see a path through the tree that you think you recognize the other side of, but you're not entirely sure, as she is just waving you forward and telling you, through here now, come on, let's go. Chat, I'm gonna mute the entire fucking chat. Keep that up. Beth, you started it. It's your fault.
It just happened.
Chat is wild tonight.
For those of you watching this on VOD, you should really tune into our live shows so that you get to experience the uniqueness that is our Twitch chat. Moderated, mind you. Moderated Twitch chat.
Raven would never hurt my feelings by erasing one of my messages. She loves them.
Uh-huh. Anyway. Bren, it is your turn.
Yeah, so we're all running into safety, yes?
Yes, but you are also at the moment the only one that knows that Dove is dying, not quite dead yet. If there was something you wanted to perhaps do about that before you flee into this magically sundered tree.
There is. Just Bren walks over to Dove on the disc, kind of pats him on the cheek, and he goes, "Hey, you need to wake up." And I'm gonna cast Healing Word.
Okay.
On Dove.
You cast Healing Word. You don't need to worry about the amount that you heal. You know that he was close to dead. That basically, if you had not done that when you did, he probably would have died. As you see the healing magic leave your fingers and a slight bit of coloration return to the parts of Dove's skin that you can actually see that are not covered in soot and ash. His breathing, like there's a gasp to his breathing, and it steadies. You know he's not waking up anytime soon. Being that close to death, you don't have the magic to restore somebody quickly or that. But he's at least stable.
I'm going to continue in the direction of safety until we can all reconvene.
Okay. So basically, I'm going to give each of you an opportunity to do one last thing before you all disappear into the escape tree, which I'm assuming that you're doing. Unfortunately for Sisk, that one last thing can only be trying to shake off the magic. So we'll go ahead and start with that. We'll see if Sisk becomes coherent.
Okay. The answer is no.
Another 3. What the hell? Surely you can't keep rolling 3s, can you?
I think I can, and I will try now.
Okay.
With DD Dice, anything is possible.
Yes. DD Dice, anything is possible. So we will start back at the top. Andrew, is there any one last thing that you wish to do? I will say that you do see Kellanun kind of stepping forward and emerging from the cloud of now thunderous, storming azure smoke as you all are disappearing into the tree.
I think Violet gets to the tree but doesn't go in first. I think she waits till everybody goes in and then will follow after.
Okay. There's almost an instinct to hold on to one side of the opening as if you're willing it to stay open for that as long as it possibly can for your friends to disappear into it. Yeah. Wonderful. 80. Do you have anything that you would like to do here as a last action before you all disappear into the tree?
Yeah, so I would like to sort of behind all of us, I want to cast Major Image, and I'd like to have just like a black wall, sort of like blocking us, like a curved wall blocking us from the view of Kellanun and whoever else I can keep from seeing us. Just to hopefully avoid, direct spell attacks.
Give me an insight check at disadvantage.
I don't like that. If I normally have advantage,
Nope.
Is it a straight roll?
This is why you have
Okay.
disadvantage.
Cool.
Your gift has become a curse in this particular situation.
How's a 9? What does that look like for me?
9. Yeah. You're pretty confident that what you have just done is probably the smartest thing you could have ever done.
Well, fuck. Okay. Jesus. Cool. All right.
Mira.
Well, that's it for me.
Mira stands next to 80 while this wall is being conjured, and she pulls the Heart of Orlumis out of her pocket and just holds it in the air so that Kellanun can see it.
Okay. Give me since you're not doing any, well, I should ask, are you going to be doing anything else?
Nope.
All right, since you're not doing anything else, go ahead and give me an Arcana check.
$15.
You remember, as you were holding up the crystal and looking in Kellanun's direction, You think to yourself, oh shit, your sister just summoned this opaque wall. He can't see me. I'm assuming that you were doing your magic in such a way that that you and your companions could see out it, and so you're able to still see Kellenun's face. And you realize that you've seen the glowing eyes thing before at school from particularly empowered practitioners of Arcana. He's looking around with true sight. That was how he was able to likely see through Sisk's disguise, and this trivial illusion, trivial to him anyway, that your sister has summoned is kind of meaningless. Bran, is there any last thing that you wish to do?
Yeah, seeing that everybody's trying to stay behind to make sure everyone's safe, Bryn's gonna start pushing people inside the tree. Like, I get it, I understand. Please go.
Bren starts grabbing people's shoulders and shoving them through. Nora is like, thank you. And like, because Nora has to be the last one through. But the rest of you get shoved through by Bren. Nora closes in behind. And as you all disappear into the tree, you can feel this surge of magic that few of you have ever felt anything like before. Any of you that have ever used a spell like Misty Step or had an opportunity for something like Dimension Door, whether yourself or someone else had cast it and thrust you through, you feel that similar kind of magical effect as you step through all of the chaos of what you had left behind fades, and it is replaced immediately by the cool quiet of a back garden with tall leafy trees offering it shade. As the tree closes behind you, you find yourself standing in a secluded corner of Dove and Nora's property. Hidden from the hustle and bustle, you have traveled quite a distance in this short span of time. There's a part of Bren that knows that this is magic of the wild, that this is not Arcana in the same sense that Mira or Adi or Violet or even Sisk would understand, that this is something tied more to the primal forces of the world that you have just been part of. And as you see the flowering plants of the garden path and this stone pathway that leads up to the back of their relatively modest but well-kept house, Nora does not hesitate. She falls upon the floating disc with Bren upon it. Her hands immediately move to his face, and you see a immediate sigh of relief upon her as a good portion of her face and her hands are now covered in soot and ash as she places her head against Dove's. And there is only a moment as the lot of you are trying to collect yourselves. Kay, Sisk, now that Sisk is no longer in the presence of Kellenun, snaps out of it. But it's that kind of thing where you fall asleep and then wake up somewhere different. I don't know if you've ever had that experience, but that's what it's like for Sisk in this moment. And before you all can really say much of anything, Nora immediately lifts up, looks at all of you and says, "Come," and starts hauling ass towards the house, which I'm assuming the rest of you will follow, but this is another opportunity that you guys have if you wanted to roleplay any interactions or anything.
Is the disc still out? Because Sisk is like in a ball, trembling, and is like pretty unresponsive.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Do the rest of you do anything?
I know Bryn doesn't. He's following back to the house. Hopefully, like, trying to convince everybody, like...
Andrew, you look like you want to say something.
Just saying, Violet's kind of like in a state of shock. A lot just happened in the span of 10 minutes. So she's just kind of following along.
I think Edie's just trying to make sure that everyone's still staying together, like keeping pace with each other as they go.
Yeah.
I think Mira wants to look around and see, like, make sure that there's no one else around, that we are truly
Sure.
safe.
Go ahead and give me an investigation check. And and I'll tell you, I'll explain it after I know the result, why I'm making you do that instead of perception.
15.
You're hot on the 15s tonight. So you absolutely will know that you've basically moved half a district in distance with whatever magic that was. That's unlike you. That's well beyond the scope of what you know for the simple, like, dimension door type magics that Mira is accustomed to. So that's something. But also, because of that, I think Mira, there's a rational part of Mira's mind that would be able to lock on to the fact that no one could possibly have predicted that. And your passive perception is good enough to know that there's no immediate threat in the vicinity of you. Does that help answer what you were looking for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as the lot of you follow Nora into the house, she hurries inside, and you immediately hear her yell out, not magically enhanced or anything, just her normal voice, "Taryn, grab the blue linens and pack for the river trip." And as she says that, she immediately, as you burst into basically the kitchen / dining area, Andrew, do we have to ban you from chat?
Sorry.
I didn't do anything. There's no evidence.
Really? No evidence of what you said in chat at all? That the owner of the channel might be able to see?
I don't think so. Don't worry, Andrew. Got your back.
Anywho, as Nora calls out this what you guys would at some point or other assume to be some kind of a code phrase, you see her head over to one of the cupboards and reach up behind it and pull on some kind of a latch or something, and the cupboard itself swing to the side, revealing a secret storage area hidden in the wall, where she immediately starts retrieving what are very apparent to those of you that would know such things, several bags of holding, and a stack of neatly bundled letters that appear to be tied with a very thin cord. As she begins untying the cord, you actually see Taryn. Actually, I should get rid of killing there. Taryn coming down the stairs. You hear the creak of the stairs. You see him a few moments later as he begins coming his way down the stairs. Your attention is immediately drawn back to the letters, however, as Nora finishes untying the cord. A flash of magic pops in front of her, and the room all of a sudden is filled with dozens of small origami birds as the stack of letters flies up into the room and starts fluttering around the room as each one of them begins turning into these small origami birds, and then immediately darting for the exits, windows, chimneys, doors, whatever, to escape the house. Obviously, magical letters intent on delivering. From the hallway, as Taryn steps into the door frame of that entry of the room, you see his small figure standing there. His eyes are wide as he takes in the scene. He's slightly elevated because of the steps, and he's looking at all of you. He's looking at his mother. He sees his unconscious father on the magical floating disc, and for a moment he's frozen, his gaze moving from face to face as he's trying to understand the gravity of what is happening around him. And then a resolve, this steely resolve, settles over this young man, barely 12 years of age, and with stern expression he just nods his head, as if almost he was nodding to himself. And without a word, he turns and rushes back up the stairs. He's not stumbling. He's moving with purpose. There's no hesitation. There's no question. He's a child, and yet he is unshaken by what he just saw. And 80 in particular can feel the determination. And there's a part of that determination that 80 you grab onto, and it almost bolsters your own in this moment, as this small child knows what he has to do. And whatever preparations that this family has made in the past, it mattered, as he goes to do the tasks that his mother's code phrase instructed him to do. As you all are standing there, you see Nora actually going through some of the pouches, thinking to herself, reaching a hand in, pulling something out, putting it immediately back in before you can really rationalize it. She's doing some kind of an inventory of looking for something or looking for specific things to make sure that she has them. It's not quite a moment of respite per se, but you all do have there's an opportunity here for you to catch your breath and say or do anything that you would like.
Bryn doesn't. Like, he goes up to Nora and, like, he asks her, like, what would you have Dove do in this moment? What is his task?
She immediately takes one of the pouches, one of the bags of holding that she had set onto the table, and she looks at you as she grabs onto it, and there's a question in her expression. She's almost trying to answer herself. Not the question that you asked, but she's thinking through something else. There's a lot of things that Dove would be doing right now, and not a lot of it you can do because you don't know the specifics of what are in these pouches. And I don't want to have you unload every single thing within them, because that's going to create a bit of a mess. So I'm just going to ask you if you wouldn't mind please holding on to these. And she just hands you one of them and then reaches down to grab another and kind of gestures for you to grab that.
Yep.
As you pick it up, you can feel that, it's a bag of holding. It doesn't weigh a lot. You know that there's a ton more stuff inside than what you're feeling. But as you hold this bag of holding, which, you have one yourself, don't you? Don't you have one of the bag of holdings? Yeah.
Yep.
This is a quality unlike anything you've seen before. This is the quality of craftsmanship in that simple bag of holding. I say simple, it's a marvel of magical power. And there's something about that just resonates with you in this moment. It's like these were their go bags. These are the things that they have set aside for when shit hits the fan. You know that. And the fact that they put so much care, so much resource into this moment has to resonate with Bren on some level. And she just looks at you as you're doing that. She immediately goes back to what she was doing, and she's kind of mumbling a little bit to herself as she says this, because she's trying to do multiple things at once here. And she says, "We packed these things for a quick escape, and now I find myself just not being able to do things quite as quickly as I wanted. Oh, I'd hoped we'd have more time than this." And you see her definitively trying to avoid looking back at Dove as she's doing this.
Hey, it's okay. Just you focus as best you can. Everybody will get out of here really fast. And like while he's talking, these bags that he gave her, he's tying them like legitimately to his chest, like very tight, to where it's within his sight, and it's
they have straps and buckles, and you're able to very quickly and easily start cinching them up across you.
I guess turn around and go tend to Dove, but yeah.
Violet would go check on Sisk.
What does Violet find as Sisk is laying there? Probably still on the disc, as I assume.
Yeah, I don't think they've really changed their... That was unpleasant intrusion, unwelcome by all accounts.
Are they conscious? Are they there?
They're conscious. They are not, like, if you're like trying to tap them, like you might see a little bit of reaction in like their eyes, but they're not like if they were non-verbal, this would be the time.
Sisk, okay, Violet will kneel in front of you and hold your hand, and like look you directly in the eyes, and just try to connect with you. Hey, breathe. Hey. In and out. We're safe. You're safe. It's okay. Hey. You okay? Can you tell me what you see? What you smell? Can you hear me?
They'll slowly start to kind of focus in on your face, and the trembling will slowly stop. I don't think they've really answered you, but just having the communication and having someone there is, I think, doing a lot. They're coming closer to consciousness for sure.
Yeah. Violet will just sit in with Sisk for a bit.
About the twins.
I think Mira knows that she, is probably going to get in the way if she tries to help, and it's not going to be any faster if she offers help. So she's going to make tea and bring some out to Sisk and Violet just to try and help Sisk recover a little bit faster, and stay out of the way.
Me, do a wisdom check. wisdom ability check.
$19.
Nice. There's an instinct to this where you just like don't know what the answer is, so your default answer is T. And you go over to the cupboard and you start grabbing a couple of mugs. And you set the mugs down and you reach out for the carafe of water that's sitting there. And you realize there's no way that you have time for tea. But maybe water is enough. Maybe water will work enough. And you just start pouring a few cups of water to take over. 80?
80 will go over to Sisk, kind of looking at Violet for a second, like, what can I do? And I think she would just sit next to Sisk, maybe put a hand on their knee or their shoulder, and then try to access some really like positive emotion and energy and memory, and just try to channel that over to Sisk in whatever way that may or may not work, but just trying to be supportive.
Right. As you are all kind of, the rest of you outside of Bren are kind of congregating around Sisk and trying to help them through whatever this traumatic experience was that is happening. Bran had turned kind of away from Nora to look back at his companions. And as he takes a step in that direction, he feels Nora's hand on his arm as she reaches out and kind of turns him back towards her. And she looks Bran in the eyes. And you feel like there's a moment here where perhaps she answered that question that she had been trying to work out just a few moments ago. And she looks at you and she says, Dove said that you're leaving your lives here, that you have a way out, a way to escape this. I know this is asking something maybe you can't give, but you'll take us with you. I promise that we'll be an asset on your journey. Dove and I have skills that'll be of use, and we don't have a whole lot of options at the moment. I can promise you that you won't be in any additional danger from what we've already put you in. We've set up protections on certain things, but Terran, he deserves more than this, and we're going to end up going into hiding, and we're going to have to seclude ourselves in a place. He doesn't deserve that. And if you have a way of escaping, I don't care how short it is, I'm asking you, please take us with you.
Yeah, like it doesn't take any convincing. Honestly, I feel like in the middle of all of that, before she even got to speaking about Terran, Bren would have been like, yes, absolutely. But I didn't want to interrupt you.
I think it's a scenario where he starts to say those things and her force of personality just kind of prevents him from getting all of those words out before she can finish. And as you do say that,
it's not even a question.
You see a relief come over her. And she just looks back at Dove and Sisk laying basically next to Dove. And she just nods. She grabs the third and fourth of the bags of holding and she slings them up on her shoulders, similar to the way that Bren did it. And she turns and starts to call out to Taryn, but before she can even get his name out, he is running down the stairs, and you see him now dressed in basically the equivalent of like adventurer's clothes. Like he has a mini pocketed shirt and a long, it's tiny, he's a kid, it's a trench coat, that is basically cut to him. It seems like it maybe is a little bit large for his form. Like they weren't anticipating that he would have to wear it quite this fast or quite this soon. And he has a pack rather, slung over one shoulder, and then holding down by his side, you see a very large, much too large for him, a very large forge hammer. And you don't think it's his forge hammer. And in fact, 80, given that she's distracted, hasn't probably looked at it yet, but I think 80 would recognize it as one of Dove's. And she would probably surmise some point that wasn't part of whatever he was supposed to collect of things for them to go, but he did it anyway. And as he stands there, Nora just walks over to him and reaches down and scoops him into a huge embrace. And after a few moments, she stands up, and you can see her kind of wiping away a tear that she's fighting to keep from turning into many. And she looks back at Bren. She says, "All right, I can get us out of the city, but I don't know what direction we're going."
Don't worry. As soon as we get out, we know which way to go. We'll get everybody to the boat.
Right, but could you give me at least a cardinal direction so that we don't waste our time traveling all the way around the city if I happen to take us in the wrong direction?
Absolutely. It's that way.
Yeah. Right. Southern Mountain Ridge. Got it. Let's go then. Is he okay? Are you going to be able to keep up and move? I'm not familiar with that magic. And this is obviously directed at Mira.
Yeah. I can. I need to take just a little bit of a break, and it'll take me a couple of minutes to recast it, but I can keep it up.
Okay. Well, we're not going to be moving at breakneck speeds. This is one of those things that the faster you go, the more attention you draw. I'm going to try to keep us to alleyways and darker passages that I don't like Taryn to see, but that's what we're going to do. So, let's go then. And she immediately starts moving for the front door. Assuming the rest of you follow, but is there anything in particular that you would like to do?
I'm sorry if somebody else had something. Is there something personal that they're forgetting? Like a family photo because it just doesn't fit in their go bag, or something that seems to be like, on the mantle, that's my great granddad's thing,
What's Bren's passive perception?
15.
And what's his passive insight?
That's a bit higher, actually.
Okay.
18.
Great. I will say this. As you are moving through the house, Bren probably instinctively moves to the back of the train of people. And more as a way of herding to make sure that everybody continues moving forward. And he gets one last look at the inside of the main living area of Dove and Nora's home. And he sees a chair. And he knows it. It's not his chair, but he knows what it is. And there's a pillow on that chair. And it's got a bit of embroidery. And it looks a little too frilly for a man's chair. But he knows why it's there. And he doesn't think he can take the chair.
Oh, damn.
But he could take the pillow.
Yeah, he grabs the pillow and then heads out with everybody. Oh, good point, Andrew. And Dove's pipe, because I'm pretty sure it's by the chair.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Wonderful. You all step out into the streets of Ysterra, and it doesn't feel any different than when you had first arrived. There's a lot of bustle and activity going on, but it feels like that the news of whatever transpired minutes ago, this was literally just minutes that all of this has happened, has not made it far enough out from where the incident occurred. You see some people kind of looking in the distance and, a few like wondering what the black smoke is and such that they can see in some other portion of the city. But you also, every person that kind of points in a direction and asks that, you hear someone else say, it's probably just some blacksmith that, had to snuff out their forge or something. It always puts out pillars of smoke. And it seems like seems like everybody's just looking for that mundane answer to the question. That no one could expect something as violent as what you all witnessed to happen here. And maybe an hour into your journey, you are slowed down by the fact that you have to move kind of surreptitiously. Every now and then there's a crowd of people coming down a street and you have to kind of all stand in such a way as to kind of block the floating disc with two people laying upon it. At some point or other, 80 conjures up another small illusion to make it look like, Sisk is just sitting there instead of laying there, and Dove is like a couple of pillows and, implying that Sisk is someone of importance that is being hauled around on a magical disc. And slowly you start moving through the city. Eventually, as you have to move through some of the more denser parts, you do start hearing whispers, hearing people talking about, something happened up in the quarter. Clergy were there. It was all this blue smoke. The news is starting to get out that something bad has transpired. That creates a bit of urgency for you, but at the same time, you can't move too quickly. You have to take rests so that Mira can recover some of her magic. That buys you a couple more hours. And as you're nearing the edge of the city, you notice that you're not heading towards one of the gates. Instead, you're heading towards what appears to be the mines. And every now and then, Nora says, wait here. Keep an eye on Taryn. And she goes off, still within sight of you, but she goes off and tries to talk to somebody, passes a pouch that likely has coins or something in it, till eventually you find yourselves at the furthest southern portion of the city. There's a gate here, if you could call it that. It's basically just an old, disused area that miners go in and out of, hauling wagons of ore and the like. And there's a moment that you have to wait for, but eventually you're able to kind of sneak out. All of this just feels stressful to you. And it isn't until you're actually standing at the foothill of the mountain that you now have to scale that you let out a breath. There's a bit of hope that creeps in that maybe you can get away. I feel like at this point, Sisk is probably starting to get it together again. Is there anything that you all would like to do or say as you're traversing the mountainside, heading back up to the ship? Whether it be amongst yourselves or with Nora or Taryn.
Turn to Sisk and ask them how they're doing.
I'm feeling. I'm doing a bit better, I think. I was hoping to never have that happen again.
What happened?
Took over my mind again. It's like tendrils wrapping around my head, and I was just gone, basically. I don't know what happened. What happened?
I don't know. You were with us and then you weren't.
Did I do anything?
No.
Okay.
I'm scared for you.
Me too.
If you ever want to talk about it, I'm always open to hearing.
Thanks, Violet. Sisk will give you a very big hug. They'll cry a little bit, but
So grab your hand and so you want to talk about it now. We're on the side of the mountain, but
let me think on it. We need to get going, but
okay.
I think when we put a little bit of distance, I think I could. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And she'll help you up and we'll keep going.
What would 80 feel through the twin bond at this point?
I think exhaustion. You know, we've been going for so long, and this was all started with a weird meteor falling from the sky, and Mira's just tired. She wants to find a place where she can just collapse and not think about everything that's confusing and wrong and upsetting, and you know, she's just wanting a break from all of the constant onslaught.
She'd feel something similar mirrored back to her from 80. A lot of it is just purely emotional exhaustion. And I think just given everything that's gone on, she would kind of retreat to where she feels safe, which is with Mira. So I think until, you know, terrain gets difficult to manage, I think she'd just link arms with her and stay close.
About you, Ian?
Well, nothing in particular, just focusing on getting up this mountain.
As you all traverse up the mountainside, you've now had to do this a couple of times, and I feel like maybe you missed your calling as mountain climbers, perhaps, because you've had to do it so many different times. Some of you might even start hating it at this point, but at some point or other, a few hours in, Dove starts to stir. And he coughs a bit. At one of the points where you had to rest, Nora would have used a cloth and tried to clean up Dove's face a bit. He's still pretty injured, but on the trip he at least sits up. You all get to hear a bit of conversation that takes place between Dove and Nora. There's a moment where Karen is like drawn into it, but doesn't talk. Is just there to be part of it. And Dove doesn't like what's going on at first. He's very resistant to the ask that has been made. But he knows and sees that there really isn't another course to be laid. And at some point, he is strong enough to stand and walk around a bit. And he approaches Bren. I don't know how to say thank you in any appreciable way that's going to be enough. So, and he just puts a hand out in front of you. He holds his hand out towards you.
Yeah, he takes his hand and he shakes it firmly, and it's not a problem.
But we don't know where we're going, right?
Oh, we're going to the boat.
No, I meant beyond that. We actually don't
Absolutely not.
know the physical destination that is going to get navigated to.
Mm-mm. Not at this moment. It doesn't mean that we won't, have an idea, but the current concern is getting to and then getting off. So let's cross that bridge first.
All right. He starts to turn away and then stops. And he places a hand on his chest. And he starts pulling his shirt away a bit. You know, he had that leather armor on before. So he has to kind of pull that to the side. And he reaches down and he pulls out the necklace. It's hanging from the heavy gold chain around his neck. And there's the pendant, the talisman, the proof that he has passed one of the Imperium's social trials. And he's holding it in his hand, and he's gripping it so tightly that it looks like it could start cutting into his flesh. And in one large sweeping motion, he tears his arm away from his body, ripping the chain into fragments, and then hurls the pendant off the mountainside. And there's a moment as all of you see this, obviously, but there's a moment as Bren, standing so close, is looking at Dove. And it's almost like a weight, like a physical weight has been lifted off of his shoulders.
Like Bren watches the whole interaction, and he's kind of like giving him a similar look like this. He doesn't say anything. It's like an acknowledgement. Just another opportunity or another example of how much stronger than I you are.
Yeah, but you weren't dumb enough to walk into an exploding barrel. And he just turns and walks back towards his family.
Yeah. I think, are we moving or have we stopped? Like we're camping or
this is like a moment of break.
Mm-hmm.
Like a moment where you guys have stopped to rest.
I think if while everyone else has gotten themselves occupied with whatever, Bryn takes a moment to kind of like walk away from everybody. Actually, probably in the direction where Dove threw his medallion, and just kind of stands there and looks off. And then he takes his out. And then he sits on the ground. And he's still holding on to it. And he's still looking in that direction. And it's just... oh, well. And he puts the talisman on the ground right next to where he's sitting, and he casts mold earth to where it's encased in stone. And then he pats the top of the stone, and he stands up and he goes, "A lot stronger than I am." And he walks back to the little camp.
As Bren walks back, wasn't so much a camp as everyone just sitting on a cluster of rocks trying to get a breather. But with you there, everybody just thinks, okay, let's keep going. Did 80 feel anything in particular from that bit, Ian, that she might be able to act upon now or later?
I think, or later, I think if 80 was paying attention when Dove and Bryn were having a conversation, probably not hearing what they're saying, but when Dove walked back, there was a sense of confusion, but then there was actually a little bit of sadness that was coming from Bryn, and that sadness actually translates when he comes back to everybody too.
Would 80 just save that for later?
Probably. I don't think she has the energy to just like take on everybody's emotions at the moment. So I think she would just let it sort of settle.
As you all finish ascending the mountain, you eventually reach the airship. Before you reach the airship, Ren meets with you, coming out of seemingly some hidden alcove or other, noting everyone looks a little bit worse for wear and seeing the additional people, and there's a moment of questioning expression that Bren basically just shakes his head and waves in a later, and Ren accepts it. As you all find your way back onto the airship, Oriana is there, Phelan is there. They had all seemingly been prepped for having to fly in at any moment and perform a daring rescue. Oriana, at one point or other, just jots a note and mumbles to herself, I guess that wasn't today then. And folds up the paper and stuffs it into one of her many books. And you all pile onto the ship and take off. As you all take to the skies above the Imperium once again, there's a heavy weight upon each of you. Not just what transpired earlier in the day, not just what transpired in the past week, maybe even the past month or more. There's a weight of this place. There's a weight of the Imperium. And each moment that you are in the sky, you feel that weight becoming less and less of a burden. You have to travel through the vast majority of the Imperium once again to get on that path that Sisk and the notes and journals that you have from the previous crew had pointed you in. Sisk had mentioned something about a place in the northern reaches of the continent of Insaris that had people of the elements that roamed around and was extremely magical, and everybody there has quote-unquote gifts, and so all of your efforts are put into what it's going to take to get there. You start to think about what supplies you have. You figure you've got enough, at least for now. Nora seemingly prepared for anything, had pulled from one of the bags of holding months and months of hardtack and hard cheeses and twice baked crackers and all manner of supplies that would probably have fed, her trio of a family for maybe half a season if it became necessary. So they're contributing as well. Taryn is, of course, thrilled. Absolutely bonkers, mad, insane, over the moon to be flying on a boat. That is the most mind-blowing, earth, realm-shattering experience that a young half-dwarven boy of 12 could possibly have even fathomed. And he's getting to do it. Violet finds him very frequently climbing the mast with her. And through no amount of consternation on Dove's part, probably is going to end up having to teach him a thing or two about hiding and, what secrets small children can keep from their parents and which ones they can't, that sort of thing. There's a part of her that I think kind of gets wrapped up in the notion of this child on the ship. Kind of takes her back a bit to maybe a happier time of her childhood when she was young and a bit more carefree. For 80, this experience is unlike many of the others. She doesn't get quite as much respite, as it were, because of the emotions and constantly having to feel everything. And there comes a point at which she starts to contemplate just shutting down for little periods of time. It's probably necessary. She finds solace in the engine room, of all places. The power of this arcanic engine seems to be enough to kind of mask what it is everyone else is feeling. Mira gets a little bit lost in the weeds, we'll say. There's so much to know. Could not possibly be enough time to read and learn everything that are in these journals, these tomes, her own book that her father had told her to keep. There's so much there. Maybe starts to feel a little bit overwhelming. And I'm curious, at some point we can discuss how she gets through that, who she relies upon to help her. Because there's a lot of people on board that could help. Sisk, of course, still finds themselves dealing with the repercussions of what transpired with Kellanun. They had built up such confidence every year that they had managed to stay away from Kellanun. To be faced with him once again shattered a lot of that. And I think they have to rely upon others too. And Bren, whether he likes it or not, ends up having to captain the ship. All of the myriad of woes and details that come with that. But thankfully, he has a bit of support. He has friends to help him get through. As you all are drifting nearer and nearer to Orlustran, I have a question. Do you stop? Or do you keep going?
Adi would want to just keep going. They've been spending so much time trying to get to this point, and it's been difficult in so many ways, but I think at this point she's pretty exhausted and just needs to keep moving.
Mira would want to keep going too. She doesn't feel like they're equipped to deal with anyone else's problems, and so let's go make some of our own and leave the city to burn for a while, because there's nothing we can do.
About the rest of you? You have thoughts?
I don't think there's a question for Bren, but he does ask Mira for a favor. Do you have any ability of sending a message?
Maybe?
Yeah. Think you can send a one-way message to Tamra?
Sure.
Thank you. Just let her know that her sister and her family are okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mira will, I think, conjure a hawk, something that can fly fairly quickly to Tamra and get the word to her as we pass over the city.
Yeah. You're still doing that thing where you travel at night and then stop the ship during the day in order to avoid people potentially seeing the ship during the day. Or if you're hitting a less densely populated area, maybe you travel for a bit during daylight hours, but you still try to set down and rest. If anything, just to make sure that all of you become more and more comfortable with crewing the ship. Because once you get past the edge of the Imperium, you're going to be over oceans. And then it's a 24/7 job. And everything happens in shifts. And everyone has multiple roles. And everyone has to work all the harder. Speaking of working all the harder, thank you so much, Careful Cantrip, for the raid. Welcome in, Raiders. Appreciate you all joining us. Andrew and Kay, I'm assuming that neither of you in particular had any notions of wanting to stop in Orlustran or anything. But is there anything that you wanted to add to this before I move on?
I think Violet will, while we're in there, just kind of walk the deck and really realize that the ship is full of so many people now. And I don't know, we'll try to find 80 in all of it. And hold her hand.
You are able to do that over the many days that it takes for you all to reach the northern reaches of the Imperium. By the time you get to, Orlustran and then moving a bit past Orlustran, there's a section of the cargo area of the ship that Dove and Phelan are working to basically wall off and turn into a small pair of rooms for Dove and Nora and Taryn. They're tiny, but it's kind of the best you can do. And you realize that you guys have quite a long journey ahead, so there's plenty of opportunity to kind of reshape the insides of a good portion of the ship to accommodate crew quarters for everyone. At some point you'll run out of room, but for now you've got enough. As you begin to what you think is leave behind the Imperium, you reach the absolute northern tip of the Imperium. You've had to continue navigating across ley lines, the lines of magic that allows the Arcanic engine to actually stay afloat. You can vary a little bit using your own magic to kind of supplement that, but it still kind of constrains your journey a bit. Thankfully, there's a spot at the very tip of the island that is the continent of the Imperium where you can touch down for one last night of rest, or one last day of rest. And it's probably night for this portion. And a fatigue has certainly set in, so you're all looking forward to a good night of rest. And as you fall asleep, all of that fatigue weighs heavily upon you. You drift into a darkness of sleep that feels deeper than any that you've known. The familiar blur of this sleep, however, fades. And it is replaced by a cold, dense silence pressing down around you. Slowly, shapes begin to form in this dream. Faint light, shadowed figures, distant sounds of whispering voices. And then, like the snap of a finger, the scene crystallizes, sharpening with an unnatural clarity. And you find yourself standing in a dimly lit space, as if some unseen force has drawn you into another realm. Around you are the familiar faces of your closest companions, and everything seems to stretch and warp, twisting in directions that don't make sense. But in the middle of that warped dream state, there stands Sisk, Violet, Bren, and Mira. Notably, 80 does not seem to exist in this dream. And Bren's form is different. It flickers oddly with a strange double image of himself that kind of overlays him, lingering in his wake, a almost younger version that trails his movements by the faintest fraction of a second. And then there's a voice that cuts through the darkness. Smooth, dripping with condescension, barely concealed malice. Kelenun's form appears. His gaunt figure emerging from the shadows, the robes ripple as if they are alive in whatever this dream is. And he looks at Sisk. Ah, Sisk. You hear such foolish terms. You know, I had almost feared you had escaped me forever. Almost. And then he regards all of you with a chilling calm. And his gaze lingers for a moment on Bren. And there's a bit of a frown that becomes visible upon his face, and his eyes narrow as if intrigued. And almost as if he's talking to himself, he says, "Interesting. I thought your kind were wiped from this world a millennia ago. Lost to history, destroyed as they deserved. And yet here you are." And there's an almost disturbing fascination as this twisted smile is tugging at the corners of his mouth. And then he looks to Mira. "Oh, young Miss Tavish. My sincerest condolences, by the way. Your mother was quite the inconvenience. But don't worry. I'm sure she finally found her peace, and that she's no longer a trouble for me." And he looks at her with this terrible calm. "Speaking of," and he kind of drifts to the side just a little bit, and there's an outline of a figure standing behind him. And almost as if coalescing this dream into further of a nightmare, you see the shape of Chokrin standing behind him. It's unmistakable that it's him. And it's almost as if a pair of eyes appear in the shadow and stare at Violet. And in this dark outline of a form, a mouth appears. Broad, white, smiling mouth as it looks and stares at Violet. before anything else happens, Kelenun's voice comes back to all of you. Run! Flee the Imperium on this marvel of magical ingenuity that you have found. Hide in whatever shadows that you like. Know this. I will find you. The depths of this world are vast, but you cannot remain hidden from me forever. You're nothing but loose ends. And I've always been thorough. And the dream begins to collapse. The shadows pulling away like black smoke, leaving you with a lingering sense of eyes watching you. And you awaken. In the morning, some of you probably stirred awake, sweating. Others maybe just groggily rising. None of you know what that weird dream meant, but it happened. And as you gather for breakfast, there's familiar smell of spices from the galley. Few of the others, Oriana and Nora, working together, Ren piping in with the occasional odd comment or two. Everyone settling into a fairly simple meal. All of your meals probably have to be simple for a while in this journey. But thankfully, there's a lot of tea. Piping hot tea. And coffee, for those that might need it. The four of you that experienced that dream look at each other at some point or other. And it clicks in your mind, whether you want it to or not, that wasn't just your dream. Katie knows something is wrong when this happened. She can feel it, not just through the bond that she has with her sister, but with her gift as well. I'm curious, you guys could each define for me what it is that Adie feels. Ian, start with you.
I think it's I don't really know how to describe it, but it's like as if somebody was like, it's like a revolving question, like in Bren's mind. Inquisitive, concerning, something along those lines. As he tries to keep a stone face at breakfast.
Violet?
I think Violet has a lot of fear, but looks at 80 and has a lot of confusion as well.
Mira?
Mira would have absolutely told 80 about the dream and just sort of probably said, I think you're lucky that you didn't have to experience it, that you've got that ring. But
This was probably before you realized that you had shared the dream. And it isn't until that you guys are all gathered up that it's clicked to at least some of you that you all experienced something. What about you, Kay? What does Sisk feel?
I mean, this is another one of the worst things that could happen to Sisk. So it's a lot of the same of thing of fear, a bit of hopelessness, a bit of just
Yeah.
just beat down, really beat down.
Did he do anything at this breakfast?
Yes. I think just being flooded with all of this strange negativity, not to say that everything was, sunshine and rainbows leading up to this point, but it would feel strange to her that everybody one morning has very similar feelings of unease. So I think sitting with everybody, she would just, okay, what did I miss? You all are sending out some pretty strong feelings, and I can't quite place where it's all coming from.
A dream?
Yep.
The same. Mira, your dream is that. Did you guys all have shitty dreams?
We had the same shitty dream.
All of you?
Seems like it.
Huh. I mean, does it feel like you have to do something about it? Should we be worried?
Sure, it was nothing.
I don't think it wasn't nothing, but what is there to do about it right now? You said your kind. What does that mean? Old? Like, Kalanoon doesn't like old people?
Humans?
They didn't say it to you. Oh, okay, well.
I mean, I think he's way older than you, so I don't think old people is the.
Okay, I think we need a better definition of old. I feel like old should mean like closer to death, natural death, than age.
What? Now I'm about to die? Is that what that was? That was a dream of me about to die? Then why were all of you there?
Because you love us.
That may be so, but I don't know if that's like my definition of the afterlife.
I don't know what it
Chocolate
means,
is there too. Yeah.
but he was there, right? That is really confusing.
What's even more confusing is that you weren't there, lady.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just as confused as you all are.
This is when it probably clicks for Mira about the ring.
Well, shit, guys. I mean, we can... Sorry. I can't, share this with all of you.
Can you take it off?
Sort of.
Well, okay,
Like,
I guess.
Technically, yes, but
Yeah. Try it right now.
No.
Is it because you're being a turd, or you can't take it off?
I could if I wanted to, but I really don't want to.
You don't have to give it to anybody, just boop, and you can put it right back on.
When I've tried to do that in the past, Eliana gets really upset, and it's like it hurts her. And I don't know. I mean,
As
I
you
feel like
say
she
that,
doesn't-
you feel this sense of it's okay. I'm from the ring.
Fine. And she'll just pop it off. See?
I don't see it. Can you bring it closer? Hands in the air. I won't do anything.
She'll just hold it.
Like to cast Identify? Use my cyclamation gift to cast Identify real quick.
That's
Your
not
eyes are shit, old man, but
it's not a slow
Like these.
process to identify, and you actually have to touch it too.
Oh, I do?
Yeah.
Oh. It's a pretty black color. I just like put my finger like towards it.
she'll just roll her eyes and hand it to you. Do what you gotta do.
Here's the thing. Because he's holding it. And while he's speaking with her, he's casting Identify. This has to be part of the reason why you weren't there. It's either that or Chokrin and Calhoun are very afraid of you. I'd like to think it's the second thing.
I mean, I'm doubtful.
Or it was all a dream and it means nothing.
It's very specific to be nothing. Mira, you're the smart one. Wouldn't you agree? Very specific to be nothing.
Specific, but like you said, what can we do about it?
True. Am I getting anything from this ring?
Yeah, you finish using your gift, this affinity that you have for magical items, this psychometry that you understand very little of. You know that it is a ring of mind shielding.
That's it.
You also know that it is not cursed. You're
Okay,
very
there
familiar
you go.
with cursed items because cursed items
Yeah.
they don't come often from the ruins in which people have delved to bring you items to identify, but they do happen.
There you go, Edie. Thank you.
Having gotten Eliana's blessing, I think she'd look over to Sisk and just, this could help you, you know, if you were to use it. I know that you've sort of had your mind intruded on quite a bit. Obviously, it did something to help me. You can have it.
Are you okay to give that up?
Yeah. I am. Just take it, and she'll hand it over to you.
I will. I guess I put it on. Is that all you have to do, 80?
I mean, I think you kind of have to vibe with it for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it is as simple as that. It just takes a little time. But hopefully it'll be able to help you, you know, keep unwanted foes from your mind.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
I'm excited to meet Eliana?
Yeah, she's very interesting, a little skittish at first, but I think she kind of was able to get to know everybody a little bit through me, so I think you'd already maybe be a bit familiar. And, you know, you're a very calm presence, so I don't think you'd be seen as a threat or anything.
I'll give Adi a hug.
Hell yeah. Hug you right back.
As you all hug, there's a lot of concern from the various other companions that you have on board your ship throughout all of this. All of them want to help in some degree or other. Certainly, Dove indicates that he may not know as much as others about Kelenun, but he knows enough and, would be happy to start talking about what a awful bastard he is, if that could help in some way. Taryn, at some point or other, ends up handing Violet a little tiny wooden flower that he carved. Nora proceeds to shower everyone with all manner of, we'll call it, motherly praise during this. Ren gives less of a cold shoulder. Balin starts talking about what he can do for various ships, tasks on the ship to help lighten the load for anyone. And Oriana mentions something about her working on the magic that she uses to make it so people can't see through the illusions that she keeps herself hidden with, and that she's trying to make it work on the ship, so maybe at least while you're on the ship, the dream stuff can't happen. But everybody's here to support you. Everybody's here to help carry whatever burden it is that you have and get through to the next destination. And as you take off one last time from the shores of the Imperium, the rolling mountains, the sprawling land stretching far behind you, you see the distant horizon ahead. The weight of the past clings to you a bit. But here in the open sky, a little more clear that the road that you have ahead of you is wider, deeper than you could have ever imagined. The ship creaks a bit, as if in agreement, offering a steady, reassuring sound that kind of binds all of you, the friends with each other, the companions that you have with you, all of you together. And through the hardships of your escape that have etched scars across each of you in one way or other, there's a quiet strength now that holds you together. In the shared silences, in the way that each of you stands ready to face whatever strange things are ahead, you feel a kinship as strong as the ship's rigging. Tested, nearly broken, and yet moving on. You have now weathered storms. You've faced threats seen and unseen. And now the Imperium lies behind you. A chapter closed, but never forgotten. And as the suns dip lower, casting a warm glow across the deck, your ship sails onward towards lands unknown to you. Somewhere upon this horizon lies the promise of answers, a chance to push beyond the limits of everything that you have known before. The opportunity to find a world untouched by the shadows that you leave behind. And even though the journey ahead of you is filled with uncertainty, for the first time in a long time, it feels as though you're the ones that are steering your fate now. No longer bound by the confines of the life that you had before. And with one final look over your shoulder, you let go of that world, that Imperium that you once called home, and look into the vast unknown ahead, toward new horizons and whatever lies beyond. That, my friends, is where we're going to call it tonight.
Welcome to the world, pretty baby. Just feel like that's the song as we go to the sunset.
Thanks for that, Ian. I appreciate it.
I was holding on to that for the past 2 minutes.
Yeah, I could tell. You were getting a little fidgety. You're getting a little fidgety in your chair. I could tell.